Good morning. My name's Kevin Hicks. I'm pastor of Conyers Presbyterian Church. It is Monday, January 11th, 2021, and it's time for our Monday morning message. I'm thinking about a couple of things these days. One is marriage. I've got 7 books on my desk about marriage, 5 love languages, 7 principles, 8 dates, meaning of marriage, all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that you find in every single one of these marriage books is emphasis on communication with each other. And one of my favorite passages from the Bible about how to communicate with each other comes from the epistle of James. This is James 1, verse 19, and it says, "Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger." Just incredible advice for our marriages and, frankly, all of our relationships. One of the authors says that listening is an action, and you have to commit to it. And he goes on to say, if you don't, you never get out of your own head. You're only thinking about what you want to say next, that sort of thing. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he's got a book called Life Together. And it's about, for him, living in a seminary with other students, other men, and their life together. And one of the sections is called the Ministry of Listening. And he talks about this kind of half listening. And he says that there's a kind of listening with half an ear that presumes already to know what the other person has to say. And then Bonhoeffer says, this is an impatient, inattentive listening that is only waiting for a chance to speak. That sums up so much of the conversations today, whether it is within our marriage relationship or whether it is about politics or COVID or anything else. It's amazing how much emphasis we put on what we want to say, and how quick we are to dismiss what other people say, and we don't take the time to understand them. Proverbs 18 says, "Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions." Now, we like to think that's about somebody else, not about ourselves, but I think if you paid attention to your own conversations and how much, when you're in a conversation, how much time you're spending truly just being quiet, trying to hear the story of the other person, trying to listen, compared to how much time you spend listening just enough to be able to come up with the next thing you're going to say, especially with politics these days. If your whole approach is to try to listen just enough so that you can argue your side, then you're the fool that Proverbs is talking about, I think. Proverbs, it's the same chapter, chapter 18. This is verse 13, says to answer before listening, that is folly and shame. So as we go through this next week, I want you to look for opportunities to listen. Now, maybe that's within your marriage relationship. Maybe you need to put a little time into that and simply need to shut up and listen and try to figure out what it is your spouse is concerned about. It could be with your children or grandchildren. It could be time for you to just be quiet and try to understand them. Try to understand where they're coming from, especially if they disagree with you on politics. It's common for that to happen. And so instead of trying to convince them to think the way you do, or even trying to convince them to understand you, make an effort to try to understand them. See if you can listen enough to be able to understand why they think what they do, and even begin to sympathize with how they got there. And maybe it might even change the way you are thinking about things if you take the time to just simply listen and find out more about why they think the way they do. So, back to the passage from James. Whether it's marriage, whether it's politics, whether it's parenting, whether it's working together with somebody in an office, whether it's just people on the street that you pass and engage in. James says, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. That's my challenge for you this week. God bless you. Have a wonderful week listening and understanding each other. And I pray that in that listening, you are just amazed at how the relationship changes. God bless you. Amen.